to today's edition of our CESI Insides series. Today we are with the member of the European Parliament, Kim van Sparrentak, member of the Greens group and EFA, and a member of the committees Internal Market and Consumer Protection, and of course a special committee on artificial intelligence in the digital age. Not least as a member of the delegation to Belarus, I think in these moments, very, how could I say, hot topics you're probably dealing with.
Yes.
Welcome. Huh?
Thank you.
Yeah.
For the invitation.
Yeah, with great pleasure. How do you experience at the moment the coronavirus pandemic? I mean, we thought that the biggest was over and we're kind of, airing again and breathing again and saying now we can go more or less back to normal. And now the second waves are coming. How do you experience it professional, personally? What are your expectations now also for the near future as an MEP and as a member of these, I would say, very important also committees and delegations?
Yes, so I think we can all agree that it's not easy right now. I am in the Netherlands right now, and I expect to be here for quite a bit, working from home, working remotely, which is of course not ideal, especially in a job where personal relations are so important. And next to that, I think we see the incredible worries that people are having. People are not able, because in that sense, I'm lucky. My job continues, but so many people. Today, the restaurants and bars are people future whether they will still be able to month and be able to pay their rent.
Kim, I think we're having a little bit trouble with the line. I will let's try to continue. There were some cuts in between, but I think we got your main message also. What do you think? Because now a lot is being spoken, of course, is being talked about the role of the European Union for the citizens, but also for the world, I could say, or to find its proper place in the world. And a lot is being spoken about the conference on the future of Europe. What do you expect from that conference? Is that such conference needed? Would treaty changes be needed? How do you see it? Because I remember. I was already indirectly involved at the time when it was when the convention, had its meetings in the 2000, and the issue is always: do treaty changes help, or is it by the end of the day then also more a question of political will? How do you feel this? How could I say, these discussions would take about the conference on the future of Europe?
Well, I think the Conference of the Future of Europe is going to be very important to really have proper discussions with, citizens, with stakeholders, and to really see what do we want. If I look, for example, at really the social security we have in Europe, the labor market in Europe, and how this is going now within the Europe. I think we still have many steps and we can still go much further and create a much more social Europe where people can really thrive in the current. If we, for example, look at our internal market, about removing barriers for labor and trade. It's also about lifting people up, making sure that no one in Europe has to live in poverty anymore. So I really hope that when we're talking about the future of Europe, we're not looking at Europe purely from an economic trade market point of view, but really look also at the social value and how we are going to make sure that we set, strategic goals, that we set really aims for improving Europe. It's a more social project than it has been in the past years.
Yeah, we're expecting, of course, also that from our side as trade unions, that somehow we will say that social and economic policies or social or single market objectives must be two sides of the same medal. So we also expect some kind of bigger importance here of social policy fields, more competences also by the end of the day for the European Union in this regard. Kim, we all speak a lot. We've had meetings yesterday and the day before yesterday on on the fact that COVID-19 crisis hits women disproportionately hard. What do you think could the EU do to make sure that this crisis will not mean a major setback in gender equality and women's rights?
So one of the things that we of course see is that many sectors with high female employment, such as the hospitality, are very much hard hit. And we also see that women more often work on precarious and temporary contracts. So it's often much harder for them to access the support measures. So I think one of the things we should really look at is see how support measures can also be there, be more targeted towards them. But next to that, I really think that the economic recovery should invest in the care economy and in female employment. And I really hope, and I call upon the Commission to really look through this gender national recovery programs. I think next to that, what we're seeing is that women have been taking, the main brunt of the additional care work, looking for after children, looking after the elderly, because of COVID. And the new legislation adopted, for example, in Belgium, which was an initiative from the Greens, where parents can get additional parental leave when the school of the children is closed because of COVID, I think is one of the very good examples we really hopefully see coming up much more in the coming months, especially because we know that it's not gone yet. The fight is going to stay with us for a while, and we really, the inequalities that are already existing in our society, they shouldn't grow because of this crisis that we're in.
Another vulnerable group also during economic downturns are workers, usually in atypical forms of employments, and we speak of solo self-employed, young workers, platform workers, atypical workers in the largest sense. You have also been working or given quite some thoughts on platform workers. What should be done? What could be done to improve their status? We always speak here of the triptych. This is our triptych: demands, social protection, interest representation, and labor law are somehow applicable to them. What are your views on the subject? What do you think is the most important now, also, and especially when it comes to platform workers, to have their interest taken into consideration, and of course that those workers are also protected, not only now but also in the future?
Yeah. So we like when we're looking at the current situation, one of the things that I've stressed a lot in our work, in my work, was the fact that how are we going to protect the health and safety of platform workers? They are especially the people, for example, working as a rider, delivering food, delivering meals. They work for a platform, they work for an app, the app directs them. How can we make sure that they know how to take the proper health and safety measures, and also if they get the proper PPE, for example, to make sure that they are safe. So I've been in touch with quite some platform workers, and we've seen that many precarious contracts have been cancelled, and therefore their source of income was gone. And especially because they are bogus self-employed, they are not eligible for government support programs. So I think we already knew there was a huge issue with platform work, gig work, and longer to improve the situation of work. We're expecting to have a platform work summit this September. This had to be cancelled, but the Commission will come with a proposal next year. And we really need legislation that lays down the definition of a worker. I think this is necessary to fight all forms of bogus self-employment, such as platform work. And these platforms, through the algorithms, they act as employers, with a very high degree of control over the workers. So I really think that, you can't say that they are self-employed because they don't decide for themselves. And next to that, I think it's really important that we improve the possibilities for collective bargaining, because the way that they are now being prevented from, organizing together and standing up for their rights is unacceptable.
Yes, Kim, I look very much forward also to work with you at the moment. Also, the proposals coming out from the hopefully from the European Commission as quickly as possible, because it's, as you said, I mean, there has been just I think a court case from the highest labor court in Spain. I might be wrong, but again, qualifying a Deliveroo, I think, no, Uber driver as a worker. So, but one of the gaps is, of course, always the definition, as you said it yourself, of a worker. And as long as we don't have clarity there, then it becomes very difficult to have a uniform application of whatever laws.
And I also feel that these big platforms, they find a different loophole every month. So we have to speed it up, and we really have to start go for it, because otherwise, the situation gets worse and worse.
And as you said, also the organizational power of the platform is quite a decisive element. But we look forward to what is to come from the European Commission, and I will certainly turn to you then quite quickly on that. Kim, another very hot topic, artificial intelligence. So you're a member of the Special Committee on Artificial Intelligence and Digital Age. I think you just started this special committee, just started its work a couple of weeks ago. You have been a rapporteur for an opinion for an own initiative report of the European Parliament on AI in the education, culture, and audiovisual sectors. How do you think digitalization will further shape these sectors? And I mean, it's always this is such a complicated issue. What are the core ethical questions also when it comes to these sectors? And I just read, you probably know this Harari. This is this professor from Tel Aviv, who wrote all these famous books, 10 Questions of Humanity and so on. He was saying the combination of artificial intelligence and biometrics or algorithms. Where do you see, let's say, fundamental ethical questions also to which will have to be discussed and also to be solved in a certain way?
Yes, so we know that AI uses data, and data is collected by people, and people are biased. So the data is most probably also biased, and this, also the algorithms are biased, and it's something that we really have to be careful with, and we have to make sure that there's a very strong check on algorithms before they are used, especially in high risk applications. And that's one of the things we are now trying to get going on a European level, that there is a more stronger regulation on the use of artificial intelligence. And in my report on artificial intelligence in education, culture, and the audiovisual sector, one of the things that we really looked at was the use of AI and algorithm and digitization also in general on schools. Dutch schools, for example, they're massively using Google for Schools that is offered to them for free. And perhaps these are very good products, but the risk is that kids get locked in very early because they need to use it to the use of Google. And what happens with the data of kids? Google says that they are not collecting those, but there's been a lot of promises from the big tech sector that haven't been committed to. So next to that, when we're looking at this digitization of education, we've seen that during the lockdown, many pupils were actually left behind because they don't have a computer, because they don't have the proper connection. And what we see is that the differences between young people from a more disadvantaged background and others get even bigger when there's only distant learning. And especially for people also in difficult situations, personal contact is just really, really important. And I think this is something that we can really learn from the situation we're in now. And it's also a big call for every member state in Europe to really close this digital gap that we see and make sure that, you know, there's digital literacy all over, also throughout generations. But next to that, also that we really make sure that, you know, everyone has access to internet and digital products.
That means also, of course, quite some, I could imagine quite some investment and in the sector, in the tools and the equipment. And if we speak of investment, also you have been behind, I think, on initiative report also on access to decent and affordable housing for all. We have from our side been advocating and campaigning for many years on increasing or giving the member states more margins in terms of social investment, as we call it. What are your main demands, or what are your main findings, first of all, in this report, and what are the main demands?
Well, so yeah, I'm the rapporteur indeed for this own initiative report on access to decent and affordable housing for all. And one of the main things that we've realized is that all over Europe there is a housing crisis. More and more people are unable to afford a place to live. And next to that, we see that more and more people are making huge profits on the housing market. So there is a very big problem going on where a fundamental right, the access to housing, is being jeopardized by very big companies, but also by very big investors that are just trying to make a lot of money. So when looking at the biggest issues that we see is, for example, that there's been a huge increase in homelessness all over the European Union. And that's why I'm calling for a target to end homelessness by 2030. And we hope that this will be part of the European Pillar of Social Rights Action Plan that will be published next year. But this, you know, only setting this goal is of course not enough. So then we also really hope that member states then get to work and draw up national homelessness strategies, just to make sure that, you know, every member state shows us how they will get to the eradication of homelessness all over Europe. When talking about investing, indeed, we see that there is a problem that's often because of internal market rules, for example, and state aid rules, local authorities, national authorities are not able to invest as much in social housing as they would want. And next to that, we see that, you know, it's very complicated for them to really feel that they can do that without the EU stepping in saying, hey, you're now providing state aid. But when it comes to investment, one of the other things is what we think is very important is that we really start the fight against energy poverty. I'm a green, so for me, the climate crisis is one of the main things we have to fight. And we can tackle the climate crisis whilst ensuring a more equal and fair and social society. And I think, especially when it comes to housing, fighting energy poverty, making sure people live in healthy homes. This is something that that brings both these things together. You know, fighting the climate crisis, making sure that people have adequate housing. And yesterday, the Commission announced their renovation wave, and we're very happy to see also that, you know, first targeting, you know, the worst houses and making sure that people are relieved in their energy bills is one important target for the European Commission.
Kim, thank you very much. We're coming to the end. What is your view of the work of the importance of trade unions, and what would be also your final message to our, I can call it, CESI community?
Yeah, so I think you are extremely crucial, first of all, and we really need you right now. There's a lot of investment coming for the economic recovery, and we really have to make sure that, you know, this investment will benefit a green and job-rich recovery. We have to avoid the repetition of the austerity recipe for disaster, basically, that we've seen. We need a warning for the big companies using the crisis as a new opportunity to further flexibilize work and come up with the kind of bullshit constructions that they did, such as platform work, unpaid internships, that completely undermine the rights of workers. So I'm really counting on you to be our partner in the fields, to make sure that, you know, as soon as we see that big corporations are abusing the crisis yet again to further undermine work rights, that you will be there in the field, and I will hopefully be able to be your ally in the parliament to fight this tendency.
Kim van Sparrentak, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for the interview. All the best to you for the future, also with the big objectives, and we will do our best to assist you also in to stand by if some political pressure is needed for the different dossiers. We'll do our best.
Very good.
Also.
Thank you.
Kim, goodbye. Huh? Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.